Jody G, full stop, period. Do you guys think that athletes should have a strength-based exercise like the squat and deadlift before starting to do Olympic lift variations and plyometrics? So, the answer is yes, but then for you it's no. So, like, unfortunately, like for you, so before you do the Olympic lifts, Jody, I would imagine you're obviously an adult. You're typing on YouTube, so we can assume that you're maybe not a 12-year-old entering an elite system. So for you as an adult, you unfortunately don't have the time realistically, and don't actually even need to a certain extent, do strength training before the Olympic lift variations. So if you look at like national training systems, or very good national training systems, they would still let them do the snatch, clean, jerk, but they'd spend a lot of time just like squatting and pulling and deadlifting and building up that strength stuff while practicing the lifts. So it's degrees of variation between those two and what you should be doing first. So you you can go do the lifts, but you need to be very, very smart about it before plyometrics. However, you would definitely need some form of strength bases before that, specifically squatting. Deadlifting, not so much. Squatting, the recommendation is usually close to a double bodyweight squat or on top of a double bodyweight squat before you start doing plyometrics, you know. And I think probably the interesting thing about that as well, if we're talking about kind of genetics in terms of plyometric sports, you'd be like, if you got a super talented athlete come in, say a very, very talented athlete in weightlifter, and they just do jumping, you know, they don't get injured. And you're like, why can he do that? Whereas like 37-year-old Nicholas from accounting and PwC can't start doing that, you know. But the likelihood is that the very talented athlete who comes into the sport probably already has that double bodyweight back squat before he even starts weightlifting, or like he'll have it in 4 weeks, you know. So I would definitely be comfortable. Realistically, you know, we know nothing about Jody, so you might not even be able to get to a double bodyweight squat within the next 5 years or something like that. So do you really want to, you know, use up 5 years? If not, you could be 17 or 18, which might be fine, you know. But for you, I would say just make sure you're competent in basic strength movements. Make sure you can at least a 1.2 bodyweight squat for the Olympic lifts, I would say, first. Make sure you have good mobility. Start practicing very, very light, but make sure you're getting a bit stronger. Flood the plyometrics, I would say, unless you have a very, very good reason why you want to do plyometrics, I would say then probably leave it off for a while. I'd say you're just risking more rather than gaining more, realistically. No, athletes are a funny one like that because they are talented, I would say, but even still, you'd prefer your athletes to have a strength base.
There's only two cases,
yeah,
in my opinion. You've kind of alluded to both of them. The first case is like your 10-year-old, so any athlete under the age of 12 or 13, so any pre-pubescent athlete, I'd prefer them to have a strength base and some sort of athletic base before they start doing snatches and clean and jerks. The only other case is a cripplingly weak and light individual who can't pick up a bar. In every other case, so even in both of those cases, they don't do plyometrics first. They'll obviously do strength training first so they can pick up and move around the barbell. In all other cases, it's going to be more beneficial for you to do snatches and clean and jerks to get better at snatches and clean and jerks. The cripplingly weak individuals, you definitely see them. They're probably the 5%. The youth athletes who are very young are probably the 3%, and then 92% of everybody else, or maybe even more, would just be better off doing snatches, clean and jerks, squats, pulls, and getting better at weightlifting through doing weightlifting training, like standard, normal, intelligent, not Bulgarian weightlifting training would make almost everyone better. Yeah, and certainly I've come across people in both of those cohorts who needed to go away and do some strength training first. But if you're watching YouTube videos about strength training, you're probably not going to be that cripplingly weak.
You do see kids can do plyometric stuff because they would probably have, like, you know, they might weigh like 30 kilos, so like they can probably squat something, but also their joints are a lot more lax and their tendons are far more flexible, so they can deal with the kind of general hubbub of being a hyperactive kid, you know.
I would say almost no adult should be doing plyometrics to get better at weightlifting, because most adults will have issues with ankle mobility and knee mobility, like knee stiffness and ankle stiffness, and plyometrics trains that in the opposite direction of where you want to go.